It's that time of year again, where many of us are heading up north to our favorite lake cabins for some fun in the sun. But before you drop anchor or set sail, make sure you watch these 3 chilling true lake cabin horror stories that will definitely keep you out of the water. And if you want more terrifying tales from the great outdoors, stay tuned for more campfire tales. Our first story comes from Reddit user Not My Circus. Every year, my husband and I rent a cabin on a lake for a week in the middle of nowhere. One night, while we were sleeping in our tent, we heard what sounded like screams in the forest. We were sitting on the dock at the edge of the lake, talking and laughing, when suddenly we heard what sounded like a woman's voice calling my name. I was kayaking with a buddy of mine on a lake not too far from our city. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to subscribe. And if you want to hear more terrifying tales from the great outdoors, stay tuned for more campfire tales. Now, with all that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and call it a night. You guys be safe out there. Stay away from the water. And as always, don't forget, I love you. The lake is man-made and fairly large. We had put in just off of this long point and were heading around the bend when we spotted this boat off in the distance. The boat was completely abandoned, and it appeared to be drifting aimlessly. We got closer and noticed that there were claw marks all over the side of the boat. At this point, we assumed that maybe some animals had gotten into the boat and knocked the owners overboard. So we start making our way towards the boat so we can check for anybody in the water. As we get closer, we notice that there's nobody in the water either. And as we get even closer, we see that the claw marks aren't actually claw marks. They're actually scratches. And the scratches go all the way up the side of the boat, like somebody had climbed up it from the water. Needless to say, we no-peed out of there. It was a clear night, and we could see for miles. There was a full moon, and not a single cloud in the sky. We turned to look at the shore and saw what looked like a woman standing waist deep in the lake. She seemed to be beckoning to me, and I could have sworn she was smiling. We couldn't tell how far away she was, but we could hear her clear as they sang my name over and over. My friends and I noped out of there and didn't stop running until we were safely inside the house. To this day, I don't know if it was a crazy stalker, a figment of my imagination, or something more sinister. Big guttural screams. Obviously, we were freaked out sitting in the tent, not knowing what was out there. Then we started hearing what sounded like hail for about 10 minutes, followed by heavy footsteps near our camp. My dad and I no-peed out of there and haven't been back since. We usually bring our friends or our family. Last year, we went with just the 2 of us. The cabin is about 100 years old and very rustic. It doesn't have any air conditioning, and it is really only equipped with a hot water heater and a wood burning stove. There is no running water or electricity. There are no locks on the doors, and there is a single very large window. On one side of the cabin, it stays propped open with a wooden stick all week. The rest of the windows are very small and also have sticks keeping them open for ventilation. On the second day of our vacation, when we woke up, we noticed a pair of wet footprints outside the door on the porch. We thought nothing of it. On the third morning, there were prints on the porch again. We went out to take a look around, and we found lots of small pebbles that had been gathered around the door and the window. Apparently, she would sit on the porch and stare in the window. Whoever was doing this only came at night, because during the day, we are always there, and there are lots of birds and other animals that could make the prints. We never saw anything or anyone else the entire week we were there, but every morning, there were new wet footprints on the porch. Our next story comes from Reddit user Riley. When I was about 10 years old, I used to go camping with my dad almost every summer. One night several years later, I was staying at a lake house with some friends. And our final story comes from YouTube user F5 Tornado. Thanks for watching.